This time of year is when I tend to like to do this type of a talk. And I know in our next class, which I'll probably do, I will, since we do these meetings every other week, I'll probably do one next week, but we'll do it on the buyer broker agreement and somewhat of the contract. So it'll be a little bit more of a negotiation type class, but we'll do that next week. So just giving everyone a heads up, or people watching us on YouTube that want to join in, please feel free to email me at info@visionforwardrealty.com, or whoever it is that you're, reaching out to. If it's one of our mentors, Nate, Augustine, Chase Chow, Mary Gebhard, just talking to them and saying, hey, I would like to come and join this meeting. We'd be happy to, because we're going to talk about the buyer broker agreement and the contract, but we're going to talk a lot about negotiating. So ways that you can make more money as a real estate agent, and stop selling yourself short, but also when do you negotiate in the different situations where when is it appropriate to negotiate to have the seller pay for it? How do you handle that listing agent who's convinced their seller that they don't have to pay for it, yet they sat on the market for over a month and you're the only buyer? How do you prepare your client for that situation, your buyer client? And there's so many other things. So we're going to really dive into detail next week on Wednesday. So Nate, I know you're really good about that stuff too. If you're able to be there, that'd be fantastic. Because there's going to be a lot of things that we can talk about, including, when you have that initial call with a client, because I think everyone should have this is why it's tough working internet leads, because a lot of times internet leads, they see one house, they're ready to write an offer, and you just don't have as much time to prepare them. And so anyone, even if it's an internet lead, try to set up time that you get to meet with them and really set some expectations, because you're going to hear them say, this is how much money I have, but this is the price range and the type of house I'm looking at. And you're going to be able to know, most of you who have even been doing video content for different homes and stuff like that, you're going to know, hey, what they're looking for is going to be hard to achieve, because this is, this is a competitive area, this is a competitive price point, and this is going to be a competitive house because of how well it's done. So I need to prepare them for this. Or maybe they're looking, whatever it might be. Like I have clients looking in Oakland, California, and we're dealing with a lot of agents that are just dumb, because they keep saying things like, oh, it's common in our area for the buyer to pay for their own agent's commission. And I have to get on the phone with them and say, I'm going to correct you right there, because that is the premise of the lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors, is nothing's common, everything's negotiable. And I do want to remind you that you have a listing that's not selling. My client is the only offer. So if you want to tell your clients that you just kissed away a potential borrower, you can do that. But my client is fully prepared just to walk away if you're going to be that way. And now you're going to have to tell your client, oh, we just lost a good potential buyer because I've convinced you that it's not negotiable, when that's not true. So either you can convince them, or we can send an addendum stating that it is negotiable and that all things are negotiable. There's nothing common in an area. That way your seller has to be presented that addendum, because it's in there. And if that's how you want to do this, that's how you want to do this. But it's hard to have that conversation with the listing agent if you haven't gotten your buyer's permission to do it that way. But here's my thing. If you meet with a buyer and you explain to them that that's the type of negotiation you're going to offer, and you explain that interaction that you may have to have with some agents, they're going to say, oh shit, I want to work with this agent. Wow. And the reason why I'm saying that and prefacing this class we're going to do next week is we are in the holidays season. I'm not saying that to be politically correct. We are getting around a lot of different holidays coming up. I know we just had Halloween, but you're going to be in a situation where you are around a lot of different friends, families, neighbors. Weather's getting relatively better, so people are playing outside, and you're around even more people, and you're going to parks more with kids, or whatever it might be. You're getting around more people. And when you're having conversations with more people, they're going to ask you a question. What do you do for work? Or, hey, how's real estate been? And you're going to say, amazing. How has your job been? And you're going to ask them a lot of questions about their job and be interested in their job. Because I swear, if you just start on this whole rant about real estate, you're going to lose them. And you're going to be that annoying person who just talks about themselves. But when you ask them more about their job, they're going to say, so how's the market? And when you explain things like, it's really interesting because some people are just not selling their houses right now and they're having trouble getting buyers. But then when I bring a buyer to them, their agent has convinced them that they don't have to pay for, my commission when it's just coming out of there's things you can say and really show off your ability to negotiate. And I think that's what we're going to really cover in next week's class. For this week's class, this is a little bit on mindset and a little bit of a networking thing. So I'm glad Nate was able to join. I think Chase is going to join soon because he's actually been really good about networking, although he thinks he's not. He has. It's important to really get out in the community. So I'm also a loan officer, and so a lot of times I like to help real estate agents, but I've had neighbors and people who have gone and I've built a relationship with them. And although a lot of them have gone to Zillow and already found the house that they wanted, and I was not expecting that because I thought they disappeared, they still are loyal to me as the loan officer. And so no matter what side of the industry you're in, no matter what sales type of industry you're in, when you get face-to-face interaction with people, you build a natural sense of trust with those people. So I think as you're coming into these holiday seasons, for us in our company, we usually do really well throughout all of the holidays, like through the month of December. Most people say, oh, no one's moving because it's Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up and everyone's busy. And we do a lot of refinances, a lot of purchase business on the mortgage side and on the real estate side. Nate's super busy right now with listings and buyers, right? I think so. Yeah. It's January and February that tend to be slow. And why is that? It's because right before what tends to happen, if you look at a calendar, kids go back to school. So September or August and September, people are finally able to focus a little bit more on real estate because their kids went back to school. So they put in a lot more effort. Then they see the results October, November, December, starts to fizzle out a little bit in December. But those holiday times is when most of you stop prospecting for business. And in my opinion, what we're going to talk about, it's the easiest time to prospect for business. But you stop. So then January and February are slow. But January is when everyone wants to do their business planning sessions. They do their goal setting and they really, hit the ground running. And that's when, spring tends to be really hot. A lot of people say, oh, spring's hot because people don't want to pull their kids out of school. They're trying to get it, buy a house before summer vacation. That would only be true if only people with kids were buying houses, and that's not true. So it's because, personally, I think it's because agents start putting in a lot of work January and February, and then they see the results in spring. And so now is the time when you can really dominate those slower months because you're going to put in effort. So Nate can probably attest to this. When the easiest transactions you've had in this last year, did they come from referrals from the hospital that you worked at?
Yes. Referrals from anybody.
Right. Yeah. From, just relationships you've built with people. And when you talk to people in the hospital or anywhere else, do you just say, hey, I'm a real estate agent. If you know anyone looking to buy or sell, please think of me. Is that is that what you say?
Never.
Never.
That scares them
How
away.
does that interaction usually work?
When I first started as a new agent, it was like a repellent. It was like, I don't know what it is, but people just don't like that approach. So It's a little more of a casual conversation, dropping the seed. like you said earlier, talk about them and then let them come back to you. And most of the time they will come back to real estate. Like, hey, I see you online. I see you on Facebook. You and your wife are crushing it. And then it turns into a conversation. So it's definitely helpful.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is, yeah, what you said is pretty like you want when you're having conversations, and I'll say this because Chanel, his wife, my sister, is not on the call, but she even had mentioned we took a trip to Hawaii, and she's like, watch, he's gonna at some point bring the conversation around and be able to mention in a natural way that he works in real estate. And we were sitting in the hot tub in Hawaii this last year, and someone said something, and you're like, where are you from? And they mentioned, or they weren't from California, right? But they knew of Folsom, right? Something like that. And somehow we were talking about, I don't even know. And all of a sudden I hear, yeah, well, as real estate agents, we see that the market, it's an interesting time. And it was such a natural thing. And the people were just naturally listening. And that's what people have to get good at, is just, you almost play out scenarios in your head, knowing that you're going to be interacting with people over the next several weeks in different, Friendsgivings and stuff like that. Even if it's just community events, I had recently where I looked up, hey, there's a community concert going on, and, in downtown Roseville, California. And I was like, I want to go. It's a little concert. I'll bring my daughter or not. And, I'm going to invite my neighbor, because why not? I think I like hanging out with him. And then we can talk about real estate. Well, we're sitting next to someone that I don't even know how the conversation got to what we did for work, but it did in a very natural way. And they just asked, well, how's the market been? And I talked to them about it. And then you take it a little step past that for random people and just say, hey, I'd love to stay in touch. And you have to try to think of ways and plan it ahead of time, right? You never want to put yourself in a situation where I just got invited to a Friendsgiving and I'm going to go. Or maybe I'm really tired and I just think, I don't really want to go to this Friendsgiving. They're not great friends of mine. You should think this could be a great opportunity for me to close some deals in the next couple months, because I'm going to find a way to bring up real estate, and play out the scenario in your head. When I meet new people that I've never met, I will ask the question, hey, it's great to meet you. Do you live in the area? Are you close by? How do you know so-and-so that we're at this event with? Oh, that's awesome. What do you do for work? I like to get to a point where I ask people, what do you do for work? Why? Because what's the common thing? Like if I asked you, how's your day? What's the common response back? How's your day? Right? It's what do you do for work? What do you do for work? What? Oh, you're cutting in and out. This is how people know that he really is on the beach in Mexico.
Reciprocal.
It's reciprocal. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's what you want to plan. So if you want a conversation to lead, like if you know someone that's coming and you want a conversation to lead to, like, someone's coming who's a renter or just got a new job, and you want to lead to the value of buying a house, what's a reciprocal question you could ask, right? And you could play out scenarios. It's like this leadership author, John Maxwell. I got to hear him speak last year, and he said, because he was doing it for business owners, and he said everything can be predictable. So if you can imagine any situation, you can control every single outcome, right? More or less, that's what he said. I can't remember the exact notes I took on that, but I want to be able to think about this. So it's the same thing when I'm thinking about, how do I want to generate business? Do I want to just open houses are great. Nate does really well with open houses. Open houses are a whole nother class we're going to do in a couple weeks. But when I think about this time of year, it's the best time of year because there's so many different community events going on. People should be going on Eventbrite and finding all kinds of events in different areas. It's just a fun thing to go to, but you got to play out scenarios in your head. When I go to that food truck at this community event, where am I going to sit down to eat? If I've got kids or I don't have kids, that's going to dictate which table I sit at and say, hey, can I join you? There's not a lot of space here. If I've got kids, I'm going to choose the table where they have kids. Hey, how old are your kids? Where do your kids go to school? Whatever it might be, I'm going to figure out and plan ahead of time and play out that conversation, right? Personally, I am planning different events of my own, right? We're doing was going to be a Pictures with Santa event, but we can't find a Santa, and the ones we can are charging $1,000 for 2 hours, and I'm okay. So we're going to do a Little Elle's Winter Wonderland, and I'm going to go through my Facebook because I have spent time connecting with people in our area and LinkedIn and just inviting random people and saying, hey, I saw you have kids. My office is putting on this event. I'd love for you to join. Why? Because it reminds people that I'm in real estate. It gives them something of value. If they come to the event, great. If they don't, it doesn't matter. It reminds them of who I am. And when I go through and I'm posting things on social media or I'm liking and commenting on their posts, they remember who I am so that when they have that moment of, I think I want to buy a house, they're going to come and they're going to ask. My neighbor had decided, you know what, I think we were outgrowing this house. And he had said, hey, can you talk to me about getting a mortgage to buy a house? I've been checking out houses. I went and toured them with some random Zillow agent. And I think I found one I want to write an offer on. Can I even afford it? And because I had that face-to-face interaction, he actually calls me. Well, the agent said this. What do you think I should do? Hey, they countered us with this. What do you think I should do? And so I am the one driving that conversation and driving the negotiations and saying, you can agree to that, but actually counter them even higher and ask for a huge credit, and so many other things. So we have Thanksgiving coming up. Everyone has different Friendsgivings. If you don't know people planning it, I would reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing a Friendsgiving. Do you know anyone who'd be interested in joining, right? You can even look at other community events and invite some of your neighbors. Hey, do you want to go with me to this, or other friends? Find opportunities to get in front of people. This is why I think it's great when people are in the mortgage side and the real estate agent side who still work a full-time job. It's great to still work that full-time job because it helps you build a good foundation of a possible referral network. Foster those relationships, but it's not, oh, I mentioned one time to them that I'm a real estate agent and they're just going to use me. It's got to be a constant reminder. Nate mentioned, and I think this is good because this happens, I think, unintentionally for most people. Anyone in a sphere of influence that you possibly could connect with, like if Nate wanted to do business in the San Diego and Mexico, he wanted to get his license as a real estate agent in Mexico, he should be connecting with anyone that is connected with his parents who live in Mexico, right? Or friends of his if they live in San Diego. I think you had friends moving to San Diego. I could be wrong. Yeah. He should be connecting with all of their friends and their acquaintances on social media, and then fostering that relationship. When he first got his license, he was doing a lot of open houses. He got a couple listings and kept reposting the same post, right? Here's a price improvement. Here's an open house. All people see is a house and a price, and they think, whoa, they sold that house. Even though you're just saying, hey, I'm doing an open house. When I first got my license, I was constantly doing open houses. The only thing I got from it was everyone in my sphere of influence thought I was selling those houses. And I wasn't. But they thought that. And so when I connected with them, they looked at me as, holy crap, you're doing so well. Nate's gotten the same reaction because that's what happens. People don't read the full post. They just see the house that you're posting. So now is the best time that even if it's, I'm going to go to a holiday, a holiday party at my work, or I'm going to go to a game night, a Christmas themed game night, or I'm going to host a Christmas themed game night. Now I'm going to structure in my head, how do I bring up social media? Because I'm not connected with these people on social media and I want to get connected to them. So like I've got a few neighbors I'm not friends with on social media. So if I were to think of it in my head, I'm going to think, hey, when we're talking, I'm going to bring up funny posts I'm seeing on Instagram. And I'm going to see if it's something that they relate to. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to send it to you. What's your Instagram? That's how I'm going to connect with them. Then they're going to constantly see my posts on social media. Hopefully this makes sense to people, because this is how, everyone goes and does classes with farming and how do I farm my neighborhood? Honestly, this is how you farm your sphere of influence. Nate, I'm sure you have things that you do as well. Any feedback on that? I mean, it's why our brokerage puts on different events too.
I agree with all that. I think also when people see you posting, it's an opportunity to display your level of marketing. So
Yep.
if they're a prospective seller and they see how proactive you are at getting their home out there to the world, and in which way you do it, very professional, professional photography, you have a website dedicated to it, you have a video dedicated to it. So you actually get to display to a lot of these people your sphere of influence before it's even their time. They may see that and say, you know what, this is the level of marketing I want when my house goes live. Even if it doesn't sell, I know week over week, it's going to be marketed out there to the world.
Sorry, they blow leaves every day. Can you hear that? Yeah. And it's so awesome because he just sits at the door and just like hammers the door. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is, and if anyone is interested, go to our previous class that we did a couple of weeks ago. It was one of our last YouTube videos on, how to do a proper listing presentation. Everything you do has to be so, down to the T of, professionalism, because people are looking at it, and that becomes your brand, right? People ask, what is a brand? It's how do I want people to perceive me? That's your brand. Do I want people to perceive me as someone who makes a bunch of silly video content, or do I want people to perceive me as someone well connected in the community because I've got a ton of followers and friends? Do I want people to perceive me as a person who does really good listings? It's all of that. But here's the thing is, coming up in the next month and a half, even New Year's, there are so many opportunities, no matter if you have kids or not, right? If you're just someone who, whether you own a house or not, you're in an apartment, you have some type of sphere of influence, and you have some type of an ability to grow your sphere of influence by inviting people to different events, by finding a way to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm an agent, use me. I do a lot of, it doesn't always work, but for people who maybe they don't have a brokerage that does community events, or they don't have a way to host a game night, or can't feasibly do that, or there's no community events going on in their area. Wow, I'm getting really hit with spam calls today. One of the things that I really encourage people to do is I'll do online webinars about whatever it might be, just something simple related to the holidays and stuff like that. And what I'll essentially do is I'll tell everyone, go and invite people in your sphere of influence. That's your social media, whatever it is. When you go and you do, if you want to volunteer during the holiday season, and now you're connecting with other volunteers, bring up, to that, find a way to structure that conversation around connecting on social media, and then invite them to a webinar about buying their first home. And that will give you an intentional conversation, which then they'll say, oh, I already bought a home, or I don't think I could afford to buy a home. I just switched jobs, or aren't interest rates too high? Why would I buy a home now? Or, hey, what do you think about prices dropping? It's a way to have an intentional conversation with someone. They can follow me and they can see all my posts, but some people don't see all the posts. So that's why I think it's important to find another opportunity to invite someone to something, whether it's, a community event, your real estate brokerage is putting on an event where you can say, hey, my real estate office that I work at is hosting this event. I'd love for you to join, right? It's that personal touch to it. Hey, I'm hosting a webinar with a loan officer. It's going to be about how to save thousands in today's market, buying your first house. I'd love for you to join. I don't know if you're a homeowner or not. I do apologize if you've already bought. right? You're trying to find a way to create an intentional conversation, because what's going to happen is come New Year's, people start making those resolutions. They start thinking about goal setting. It's everywhere. Even if they're not a big goal setter, they're going to hear it everywhere about goal setting. It's going to be tax time, and they're going to start to hear about and start to see ways that they could have saved in taxes, and that what are they going to do with their refund. There's so many things. Listen, the government's going to reopen here soon, and then they're going to hear all over the news that rates dropped, because rates are going to have a big drop temporarily until a bunch of economic reports get released. Then they're probably going to go back up regardless. But all you need is the news to say rates dropped, and then people get off the fence and ask about it. Who are they going to ask? Well, they're going to go to the internet, unless if they have a solid relationship with someone. So now's the time to build a relationship over the next season, holiday season. So I think now is a huge time that I know people get busy, but I think this is the best time to be prospecting for business out of any time of the year right now, because it's just easy to do it. Hey, you want to go to this event with me? And then just think, how am I going to bring up real estate, and just plan it in your head, and just do it in a natural way, obviously. But that's what I would be doing. Any other comments, Nate?
No, I do like keeping it casual though. Don't make it awkward.
Yeah,
Make it blend in the conversation. And even if it's 10 seconds or 30 seconds and you leave it at that, that's fine, because
exactly.
it's the long game. It's not like I need to make a sale right now. You just
Exactly.
have to do this.
It's just
to multiple. Yep. And it's multiple people. I mean, that's where it comes from, is hundreds of these conversations. It just doesn't come from one. So, but if you spread that seed across a lot of people, they'll start to convert over time.
And and I'm glad you said that, because it's not oh, I know this person is a renter, and so I want to talk about that. You can have intentional conversations around that, but it's more, what are you going to say? You know your audience, right? If I'm going to be bragging about how amazing I am as a listing agent, and I know I'm in a room of maybe a lot of renters, okay, well, that's probably not the biggest thing I need to steer the conversation, if that makes sense. So, for instance, and Nate's right, you're just trying to mention that you're in real estate, and you're doing it in a natural way. Best way to do it is the way you ask questions. So when I ask, and everything's reciprocal. So when I ask someone, how's work been? Has it been really busy? Has the market really been impacting you? Eventually they're going to ask, well, what do you do for work? Or, they're going to say, no, the market hasn't really affected my industry. Has it affected yours? And then you're going to say, oh, well, I know you didn't ask that I was in real estate, even though I asked you what you do. No, you're going to say, well, I'm in the real estate market. And so it kind of has, and it kind of hasn't. I mean, this is where, if I know I'm in a room of a bunch of homeowners. So for instance, I'm doing a poker night at this guy's house that I know he's inviting a lot of his neighbors, and they all own their own homes. And so I would bring up, it's an interesting, if someone were to say, has the market impacted you? I'd say, yes, just in the sense that people don't have as much money in their pocket. There are a lot of people eager to buy a house because they know rates are going to drop soon, and they want to lock in a decent price on a home. But homes need to be move-in ready. A lot of times people used to think, oh, don't renovate something just to sell it, but people need to make updates. Whenever I have ever said that to someone, they go, oh my gosh, can you come look at my house? I just made all these updates, and I'm thinking about making a couple more, but I'd love your opinion about it. Not kidding. That happened last year during the Super Bowl. I've had other times where, okay, I went to a Friendsgiving, and I kind of picked up very quickly that, oh, these are all very new young couples. They just started dating. They probably don't own their own house, not to assume anything, but it was just a little different conversation. They said, well, how has the market impacted you? And I said, a lot of people think that they can't buy a house, but it's great because there's less competition right now. And so you can get a seller to pay a lot of your closing costs. You don't come out of pocket anything other than your down payment. And that little thing just shows off so much. And that's all I said, left it at that. Then my goal is, it's not, hey, okay, how do I get them to say, yeah, they want to go look at houses? No, it's, okay, I just said that. now how do I connect with them so we keep talking later? Do I just flat out say, hey, like it was fun meeting you. I'd love to stay in touch. Maybe we can grab a beer sometime. Say that. Maybe it's just, hey, have you seen those memes about this? And say, what's your social media? Like, what's your Instagram? I'll connect with you on it. Or if you know, hey, I'm at John Smith's house. I bet you they're connected with Jane and Doe on Instagram. I'm just going to look them up later and add them. So then I'm going to go to John Smith's Instagram because they're the house I'm at. I'm going to look up Jane and Doe and their followers and just going to click follow and add them, and boom, there we go. Hopefully that makes sense to people, but that's like a tangible way that I would be building these relationships with people. That's really it. Anything else, Nate? Awesome.
No, that's good. That's good.
Awesome. Well, for next week, if anyone wants to join, and I'd be happy for anyone to join, we're going to be really going over the buyer broker agreement and also the contract, but we're going to go over specific scenarios of how to negotiate, because I'm also going to comment on what I'm seeing from other states where agents are making just a little bit extra money per deal. And it's something because a lot of states, so for a lot of you in California or states where you're not used to using a buyer broker agreement, there are a lot of states where they have always been using buyer broker agreements. And so there are things people are doing that are making them more money that we're selling ourselves a little short on. But there's also things you could be doing that could really help you. And I'm excited to go over that next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But yeah. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy Mexico, Nate.